It is crossover Thursday. Today we have a Locked On Vikings and Luke Braun joining the show, a guy who knows a little bit about chaos, and it's going to be a chaotic game. And the question is, can the Chargers go save their season?
You are Locked On Chargers, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Chargers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Vikings fans? What is up, Chargers fans? It is a Locked On Vikings, Locked On Chargers crossover in preparation for the Week 3 game between the Minnesota Vikings and the Los Angeles Chargers. My name is Luke Braun. I do Locked On Vikings here with Daniel Wade, who does Locked On Chargers. Let's get right into it, Daniel. Tell me what you think the biggest headline of this game is. We'll do matchups later, but just like give me the vibe, right?
Yeah, the vibe is desperation. If
For sure.
the
Two
vibe,
0-2 teams, right? And
2-0-2
0-2, I don't think is the tombstone it used to be because of the 17th game, like makes the math different. 0-3 feels like the new, like you can't go 0-3. You go 0-3, you need a miracle.
Yeah, it feels like a death sentence, right? I mean, and I think the thing about like the 0-2 stats and stuff like that too is they usually aren't as good of teams, which is hard to say about two 0-2 teams. But I mean, I think you're usually talking about the cellar dwellers are going to make up a big portion of those numbers, right? When you're seeing one
Seems
team
like the
has
Cardinals
done
and
it.
the Texans that
Exactly.
are kind of looking
yeah.
at the draft already.
Well, and like the schedule has such a big part to do with it too, right? Like, I mean, you just lost to the Eagles, and Chargers lost to the Dolphins, who seem like they're just a unit. Obviously, I think there's moments they want back against the Buccaneers and the Titans for sure. But for the Chargers, I mean, it feels like the biggest story for them right now, saving their season, saving Brandon Staley's job. Like, it is true desperation on the West Coast side of things.
I have a listener who's a dual Chargers and Vikings fan.
Oh, no.
Predicted. Yeah, I know. This is, like, first off, thoughts and prayers.
Hug that person.
Secondly, he was like, this is the day Brandon Staley gets fired. And that's going to be, I do bold predictions every Friday. I think that's going to be one. What do you think? I don't know. I wanted to run that by you.
Oh, no. I mean, literally the story for this, I mean, is the Chargers saving Brandon Staley's job, right? I mean, it does feel like it's hanging by a thread. I mean, 0-3 at this point after the way last season ended, right? Because that's the big thing. It's like he didn't get fired after Jacksonville. And that's what all Chargers fans are up in arms about. And even after 2 seasons, they were ready to let him go. The last time the Chargers fired a coach in season was Kevin Gilbride, 1996. It was with Ryan Leaf with 1 touchdown and 15 turnovers in the first 6 games. So it doesn't happen
not
a
that
lot.
Dark.
It's not that dark, but
a much darker chapter of
dude, I mean, that was a wild thing to go through again. But I mean, in this one though, like Kevin O'Connell's safe no matter what, right? Like 13-4 buys you a lot, right? I think. I mean, you could tell me differently, but like it feels like there's only one coach's job that's on the line here, even if both seasons kind of feel like they're on the line.
And so I'm fascinated with this. Who takes over if it is Brandon Staley? Are we trying to do a Raiders thing where what was that guy's name? That special teams guy that took over that. Yeah, Bisaccia. That
Rich Bisaccia.
We're taking him to the playoffs with an interim coach and be another team. Like, is that what we're trying to do here, or is this just I just hate this guy so much I need him out of my team and I need him out of my team right now? Or do we feel like that kills the season, or is there somebody that would take over that we feel like kind of good about?
No, I mean, I think it would be Kellen Moore because, like, I think that there's been enough offensively. Obviously, this game withstanding, right? We don't know what's going to happen in this game, but I think you've seen enough offensively that you'd say, okay, hey, let's see what Kellen Moore can do with the rest of the season. It doesn't make the Chargers better, right? Like, I don't think that it's a player hating the coach kind of a situation where it's like, okay, the players will rally around a different coach. It'd be really interesting to see if they made it former Vikings coach Ryan Ficken, because he's been actually the best Chargers coach since the start of 2022. He has been
for him.
A total godsend, man. I mean, that man has done something I never thought I would see with the Chargers, which is turn their special teams unit around. They've been a really good special teams unit after being perennially one of the worst. So maybe it is a full-blown Rich Bisaccia situation where they just say, hey, I don't know if we want to make it Kellen Moore or, first-year defensive coordinator Derek Ansley taking over this team. Let's make Ryan Ficken that guy. But I think it would probably be Kellen Moore. But the problem is like, I mean, and
nobody with
deal
experience,
with this.
yeah.
No one.
Like you don't have like a. This is what Romeo Crennel was made for. To be the guy that takes over as an interim coach, you need your Romeo Crennel.
Yeah, they don't have that. I don't know if it changes much, but like I'm very interested to see in this game, like how far the chaos meter goes up, right? Like
Yeah.
the Chargers play
Uh-oh.
desperate, generally speaking. Yeah, I know. I know you
Boy, do
know
I
about
have news for you.
the chaos meter for sure. But like it feels like this is a pull out all the stops type of weird game that we're going to see
For
in week
sure.
3 that probably doesn't happen in most week 3s. So I think that's going to be pretty interesting and wild to watch.
Yeah, and both teams being 0-2, and I think both teams have both lost one-score games. And that's been the thing in Minnesota is
Yeah.
one-score games, one-score games, one-score games. This is all we have heard about to the point where I'm like deeply annoyed with it.
Yeah.
But that's all we heard last year because they won like I think 11 of them, and then this year they've lost 2 of them, and everyone goes, "See, haha, that's regression," which it's like, okay, watch a football game.
Right. Right.
But that does sort of give you like the opposite thing that we were dealing with the last year where you go, well, hey, maybe eventually that'll turn around and we'll regress so that maybe we win the next 2 one-score games, right? Who knows? But I think the Vikings are built in a sense to just never put a team away because they don't have a run game. They didn't have a run game last year. They have one of the worst run games in the league this year again, at least so far.
Yeah.
And they're also not built to get put away because they're so explosive on both defense and offense.
That's such a
They've
good
got
point.
Justin Jefferson. So it's like this game is never over, is what I've been saying in
Right.
every crossover. If it's a 2-score game in the middle of the third quarter, do not touch that dial. Something wild is about to happen. It always does. There's just some big long. We've hit Jordan Addison on a big long touchdown twice now, the rookie. We've hit. I mean, Justin Jefferson, hilarious, has not actually gotten in the end zone yet, but he's gotten over $150 every game, both of the games, and it's just the touchdowns have been to everybody else. All kinds of weapons in Kirk Cousins and all of that, but it's like a very much. They have run 26 times this season.
That's crazy.
The season, 26
nuts.
rushing attempts.
How much of that is a factor of? I mean, I feel like it's hard to kind of determine their running game just watching the games, just because of the fronts they went up against. I mean, that's 2 disgusting fronts they went up against.
Well, okay, yeah, the matchups are one thing, but also, I mean, those nasty secondaries too, Bucks and Eagles. That's Darius Slay and Jamel Dean, and yeah, it's just good defense. But like, I think part of it has been game script, like a little bit has just been, they were behind 27-7 against the Eagles. Like, of course you're passing in that situation, and then you start getting into, hurry up situations and stuff. But even after adjusting for that, they're the second most pass happy team in the league after adjusting for like expected pass rate by down and distance and stuff like that. They just don't run the ball. And when you don't run the ball, they still have and I think it is hurting their like bootlegs have been really easy to sniff those out.
Sure.
But it just means that you go 3 and out a lot, right? Because you fall behind the chains the second someone drops a pass on first down. And it also means that doesn't matter because you could just house it from 3rd and 10. And so we just live in this chaos world. That this is what the Vikings are. They are chaos incarnate. Not to mention the defense blitzing half the time, literally half of the time, which I'm pretty sure leads the league by a healthy margin. And playing off-man coverage on the back end, which they did really, really well with against the Eagles, and A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith got a couple of explosives, and like that was it, right? One breakaway touchdown kind of sours the whole thing, but in terms of like a success rate deal, crazy. The formula that this turns into is anything can happen at any time. It could be a sack. It could be an interception return for a touchdown. Both sides of the ball. It can be a fumble on a botched exchange. We got a backup center going right now. It could be anything can happen at any time, always. Strap your eyes open with tape like it's Clockwork Orange and put on a diaper. You will not want to move.
Oh, I can't wait, man. I mean, this game I don't know where it would rate on the Kirk Cousins chaos meter, but I think
we'll find
wherever the maximum of that is. And now you have a dude who, and Justin Jefferson talking about the matchups, who's had 150 in each of these games and now gets to go up against what has been but shouldn't be the worst secondary in the NFL so far this season. I mean, what could go wrong for the Chargers?
That's a key matchup for this one. And there's other actual matchups that we want to talk about, as well as what each team needs to do to actually win this game. So all of that is coming up next.
First, though, I do need to tell you guys that Crossover Thursday is brought to you by Prize Picks, which is daily fantasy made easy. Prize Picks is the most fun I've had, winning up to 25 times my money this football season. All you have to do is pick 2 to 5 players, pick more than or less than on their projected stats, and place your entry. I mean, it's nice to test your skills. What I like about Prize Picks compared to other daily fantasy is just, I don't want to pick a lineup and have the other team have 90% of the same players that I have on my lineup and hope that the two variants will make the difference. But for this week, though, specifically, I was wondering to myself, where would Prize Picks have to put Justin Jefferson's receiving yard projection for me to not want to use that, right? To not want to use the more than on Justin Jefferson. Well, it turns out he's at 99.5 yards going up against the Chargers, which is 17 yards more than anyone else, which is Tyreek Hill at 82.5 yards for the projection this upcoming weekend. Still feels too low going up against the Chargers team. Like a dude who's, average 150 receiving yards per game and hasn't gotten in the end zone, but hey, here we are. So I think that's definitely one of the ones I'm going to be looking at for sure, but Prize Picks is nice. I've gotten in super late projections as well in my selections at 9:58 Pacific time, right? Sunday morning. Sneak in there, get it in, and all you guys have to do is go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use the code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Promo code LockedOnNFL for that deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports, made easy.
Today's episode is also brought to you by Jase Medical. I think we've both found our teams in situations where we are not prepared, and that is not something you at home will necessarily want to emulate. The Jase case is Jase Medical's claim to fame, and it has 5 life-saving antibiotics that you can have on hand for a situation where something bad happens and maybe you can't get to a doctor for whatever reason. Look, we live in a world of supply chain issues and pandemics and natural disasters. This is just what the world is now, and better safe than sorry. So go to jasemedical.com and you can get $360 off of life-saving antibiotics with Jase Medical. And you can get an additional $20 off if you use code LOCKEDON at checkout at jasemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. Moving right along with this crossover episode on the Locked On Podcast Network, Locked On Chargers, Locked On Vikings. Now it's time to talk matchups, and let's do the one you talked about with Prize Picks just now, with Justin Jefferson and how the Chargers are going to handle him. This is a question I have for everybody. So the Vikings have Justin Jefferson. They've got a deep threat in Jordan Addison, who's been able to take the top off of defenses. They have a vertical tight end. They have TJ Hawkinson, who can run routes 15 yards down the field and get open on them, not to mention be a blocker. They've got KJ Osborne, who's no slouch. They don't necessarily have a run game. So what do we do here? What the Eagles did was they did the same thing that everybody did last year. They put a half safety over the top of Justin Jefferson. It didn't really work. He still got 150. He ended up one-on-one with Darius Slay a bunch of times, got enough wins that way. And Brandon Staley and Sean Desai are off the same tree. They're both former Fangio disciples. So they run the same defense, all that quarter, half, all of that same stuff. The Vikings showed that they had quarter, half beaters. They had cover 6 and cover 8 beaters. So what do the Chargers do about this? Do they have a player they can trust? Or is it just going to be about calling cover 1 double 18 and hoping everybody else doesn't kill you?
Yeah, I mean, it's a legitimate question. I mean, there's no person, obviously, one-on-one in the world that can cover Justin Jefferson, but the Chargers don't have the next closest thing, which is someone who can slow him down in a one-on-one basis. And the other really problematic part of it, Daniel Popper, who covers the Chargers from The Athletic, put out a stat that the Chargers have run that cover 6, right, which cover 4, cover 2 on the other side, I think 13 times, and they've given up 7 explosive plays out of it. So, like, even when they're trying to do that against other teams, it's not working. This is the biggest matchup because I know Brandon Staley was going to try something, right? He has gotten desperate and cooked up some really good game plans in the past. And whether the players can go out there and execute that or not is a week-to-week kind of thing. I know they're going to probably try some different things. I just have no confidence that he's not going to put up another $150 this week. I mean, I think that is the matchup. I think the Chargers know what they have to do, but the last time they had an easy target, somebody that you have to shift your defensive focus towards in Tyreek Hill, it went the way it did in week 1 against the Dolphins.
There's something the Lions did last year, and they lost the game kind of on this, but it might be the option, is they would play, I guess the call in that system is called Zeus 18, which is cover 2 on Justin Jefferson's side, cover 4 on the other side. And what
Right.
that means is you have a half safety taking anything that Jefferson does deep. The backside quarter safety takes anything that Justin Jefferson does across the field. And then you've got a corner in his face for anything short. So you're kind of functionally triple teaming him. The Lions had that same problem. They had really crappy corners last year. And that's kind of what they did. What it means, though, is everybody else is one-on-one, and there's holes all over the defenses. Everyone's paying that much attention to Justin Jefferson. And it turned out that the Lions got a bunch of holding penalties because they were trying to be too physical on Adam Thielen.
Right.
Is that maybe an answer that the Chargers would go for? And if so, who takes Hawkinson? Who takes Addison? Those would be the next matchups that I guess I would ask you about.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing, right? Because like athletically, the only person the Chargers have kind of, in the same realm of Justin Jefferson is Derwin James, right? Defensively. Like that is the only, hey, he is alpha male of alpha males defensively. He has all the physical tools to, at least help in a matchup against Justin Jefferson. But if you're going to shift the focus that much, if you're going to commit multiple players to one player, then you probably need Derwin going up against Hawkinson, right? And I think that, is something the Chargers have a lot of experience in, at least as far as, okay, Derwin, you have Travis Kelce, right? Do what you can. Limit the damage, that type of situation. But at the same time, it's like, okay, but how can you argue not using Derwin James in some fashion to try to slow down the Vikings' obvious best player, right? So it feels like you would have to use Derwin James as a chess piece to try to slow down one of those other guys. Like either put him with TJ Hawkinson and have him try to take him out of the equation, or just, hey, have him with, help out around Jordan Addison, who it's funny because like Chargers fans didn't think Jordan Addison was a deep threat, and all he's been so far is a deep threat, and the Chargers ended up with Quentin Johnson.
I wanted to ask you about Quentin Johnson too. And then also, whatever matchups you have too, but checking in. How's he doing?
It's hard to tell. We haven't seen him. That's the tough thing. Yeah, he has 3 catches for 16 yards in the first 2 weeks of the season. He came into an interesting spot. Like he came in as wide receiver 4.
Allen. Yeah,
and they love Josh Palmer. Maybe,
Josh Palmer.
Yeah, but like still, like I think what you were hoping for as a Chargers fan is that Quentin Johnston's talent would kind of supersede the Chargers' feelings about Josh Palmer, or basically make it so that he's so talented, you can't keep him off the field, right? Like he's so talented that no matter what your notions were of your current wide receiver core before he came into the mix, that he would just force his way onto the field, and it hasn't been like that. The Chargers took Darius Davis in the 4th round as a kick return, punt return specialist, gadget player offensively. He outsnapped Quentin Johnston last week, right? So Quentin Johnston is raw. Right. He definitely had a lot more things to work on than some of the other more refined receivers coming out of this last draft class. But like still, he can't crack the field right now. And that is, I think, a reason for concern. But like Jordan Addison's already wide receiver 2. You know what I mean? So it's just like the roles are so different.
Probably. That's actually an open question if he is or is not wide receiver 2, but it's at least debatable. That's where we're at. Because KJ Osborne's getting more snaps, but I think Addison is being more productive. So it's like, who's the 2? But either way, right? They're both like in there a lot, and they're both, it's, whenever they're in 11, it's both those guys. I was going to ask, so Chargers fans should know the Vikings are having a whole thing on their offensive line right now. Their starting center, Garrett Bradbury's out with a back injury. I wouldn't anticipate him being back, although the team has expressed optimism. I kind of don't buy it, but something to watch, right? As practice reports get released. And then they also have Christian Darrisaw with an ankle injury right now. So we might not have Darrisaw. He had. So
did he re-aggravate the ankle in the warm-up for the last game? Is that what I was reading?
Exactly. Okay. So he was a game time decision. They went out before the game Thursday night. They tested it. He felt good. They activated him. The deadline passes for when you can do active inactive. He is now warming up for the actual game and aggravates his ankle, so he has to go back to the sideline. Oli Udoh, backup, goes in, tears up his knee. He's out for the year. So we either have David Quessenberry, who's in year like 13, or we're moving guards over. We just signed Dalton Reisner, who played right tackle in college. So maybe that's the thing. Maybe he's going to play left guard like he did in Denver, and Ezra Cleveland will move out. Maybe he's just here to replace a guard somebody's upset with. I kind of don't really see that one as likely, but the fans really, really do. Like if you look at the mentions of all of that, it's, he's here to replace Ed Ingram, who's a right guard who's been struggling. I don't think that's as dire of a problem as like, we've got like we got practice squatters playing at left tackle right now, guys who didn't make teams. Yeah. So there's a whole thing going on. Hey, did the Chargers have any edge rushers we should worry about?
That's the crazy thing, man. And like I found myself smiling during you talking about brutal injuries, and it was only because like I know how much you got bombarded with Dalton Reisner before the Dalton Reisner signing, so it's just it's a little funny.
It kind of became a bit. It's fun.
No, yeah, but like there was a kind of a development in this last week for the Chargers where defensively the one thing they actually did that worked extremely well was they took their second round pick Tuli Tuipulotu and Joey Bosa and had them rushing off the same side. And like Tuli as like the 13th edge rusher drafted, and like looks like a dude. Like he's
Really?
totally chaotic
Okay.
and has to like rein things in
So
a
it's
little
a
bit.
factory in LA, huh?
Totally, man. Like he set up both the Bosa sacks last week. He got a sack of his own, but like they used him as like a rover, just kind of wandering around the line of scrimmage, pick a gap, go. But like just his general explosiveness and how quickly he got into the chest of the guards and tackles to open things up for the other edge rushers was insane to see for a dude in his second game. There's a lot of things that are going to go into it, but hey, we have to get into what's going to win this game, right? I mean, we
Yes,
talked
we
about
do.
a lot. And for the Chargers, I think they just have to turn things totally chaotic. And I think the Vikings will be a willing participant in that dance.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'm excited to
We
see
are
what that looks like.
definitely. Yes, we're definitely
let's
going to see
get-
chaos. But
I have a prediction too. I have a prediction
okay.
for this game that we have to get into for sure.
All right, hold that thought.
I do want to tell you guys about Bird Dogs though, which is where I got this sweet hat. And I know you guys, yeah, I mean the fit is looking nice today. But Bird
Yes,
Dogs,
it is.
the one
YouTube,
thing,
you got to go check it out on YouTube. He's looking
Yeah.
fresh as hell.
yeah, for the YouTube audience, I mean it's all white today after Labor Day, so it is what it is. But the one
Break
thing
rules,
that
let's go.
the Bird Dogs made me realize was that I was doing shorts wrong, which is something that is a terrible thing to say as someone who's lived in Southern California their entire life. And I just didn't know the entire time I was doing shorts wrong. Thought shorts were shorts, right? They went well past my knees. It passed me by quickly. I'm a 30-year-old man now. I had to get with the game. My wife stopped letting me wear shorts out to certain events. Then I got my Bird Dogs. And Bird Dogs are so much more comfortable than the other shorts I had, but they also just look so much better. They let my wife actually let me out of the house to go out and do things in shorts, which when it's 95 degrees in Southern California, you kind of need to be able to wear shorts. And you don't want to look like a Lego fireman, right, with your boxy shorts. Get some Bird Dogs. Get something that looks nice and also feels nice. The liner inside the shorts that, makes it so you do not have to wear anything underneath. Total game changer. Wear them to golf. Wear them to swim. Wear them to play pickleball. I mean, they're pretty much good for every occasion. Do shorts right. Don't be like me. Go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNFL. Enter the promo code LockedOnNFL at checkout for a free Bird Dogs water bottle. I got that. You can get the water bottle. That's birddogs.com/LockedOnNFL for a free water bottle at checkout. You won't want to take your Bird Dogs off. We promise you.
Moving right along, and a special thank you to all of the everydayers that listen to Locked On Vikings and or Locked On Chargers. And if any of you listen to both, we love you extra. Let's get to the crux of the issue, and that is what needs to happen for each of these teams to win. I guess you go first.
Yeah, I mean, I alluded to it, right? I mean, to me, it's about turning this game into total chaos, and I think that means turning the Vikings over, which has been, I mean, their kryptonite, right? Like,
Yeah,
the fact
they
that,
got fumbleitis.
dude, fumbleitis for sure. I mean, watching those two games in the lead up to this was a wild thing, like, especially considering the margins of their losses, right? Like,
Exactly.
you've lost
6
two
turnovers minus 9-point differential. It's disgusting.
And then you throw in the pick too. I mean, 7 turnovers and they've lost by a total of 9 points. But for me, like, what that tells me though is if the Chargers can't make it messy, if they can't turn this into a chaotic game, they just don't have a chance, because I feel like they're the total antithesis of each other, right? Because the Chargers haven't turned the ball over, playing extremely clean football, and are 0-2 anyways.
I think I'm right on the same page with you that it has to be, don't turn the ball over, has to be priority 1A. Honestly, even if they lose, but they didn't get any turnovers, it's going to feel like, okay, at least we got that crap out of the way. And it's, long season, but I think that's part of it. And I think for the Chargers, at least, I don't think the Chargers can win if they don't figure out a way to contain Justin Jefferson. I don't think you can give up a 200-yard game to JJ and keep up. But,
No chance.
and we haven't really talked about the other side of the ball at all. I think there is a world where the Chargers can run this thing out and keep the game under control that way. Now, you're going to have to give me the latest on Austin Eckler.
Yeah.
But who is the backup if he doesn't play? And is he looking forward to having the best game of his career?
Yeah, I mean, Josh Kelly is the backup, and he was the
Okay.
starter last week. The Chargers couldn't run at all last week. He went up against
Yeah,
Jefferson
well, that's
Simmons, and it was
Tennessee.
just, Tennessee is insane up front. They're just monsters.
They've had 3 possessions. They have 2 games, 3 possessions across those 2 games where the Vikings defense has been on the field for more than 15 plays. 3 times. Yeah. 3 times. 2 of them were touchdowns, and one of them actually turned into a punt because of a couple. They actually drove down to the. Yeah, there were a couple like nasty sacks. Yeah. It was in the Thursday night
actually,
game.
no,
It was
I
like
remember
2
that one.
consecutive
Yeah,
sacks, and they got just out of range.
I
Or maybe
remember.
it was a
They
missed
could have
field
put the
goal,
game
actually.
away. Yeah, they could. No, they did punt because they could have put it away, and he took back-to-back sacks. There was also the holding call on the AJ Brown touchdown that didn't happen, right?
Right, yeah. So disgusting run defense. And part of that, I think, at least against the Eagles, it was a game plan thing of we're so worried about this passing offense that we're just going to like keep our light guys on the field. And if they run, they can run. And I don't really see them changing it up a lot against the Chargers, to be honest with you. They, for one, they had a lot of success in coverage, right? And they probably feel like, hey, we're not really talking about run defense at all if we don't fumble. That formula probably worked enough as long as we don't piss away a bunch of possessions.
Sure.
So I'm thinking like maybe the Vikings take that again, and there could be an avenue there of, all right, well, let's just run you down for 7 yards of play, keep this thing under control, keep the chaos to a minimum, right? And try to actually take control of a game. Maybe that's what the Chargers want, but ultimately, I mean, this is Vikings Chargers. This thing's gonna get weird somehow, right? It has to. It's God decrees it. It has to.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, I've seen that the Chargers call Vikings West, right? Like there are a lot of similarities.
There's so
in
much
this
camaraderie,
team, right? Like there's
unless
even
you've got like weird beef over the Rookie of the Year thing 2 years ago.
Yeah, no, I mean, it feels like it's a chaotic game, and like it's been such a crapshoot to try to predict the Chargers because you can pick them to win, you can be right about all the reasons you picked them to win, and they can still kind of foil it anyways. And even in that first game, they ran for 243 yards, didn't turn the ball over. Justin Herbert, clean game, they lost. You know what I mean? So like it almost doesn't matter, and it's just like there's in no way a good conscience I can pick the Chargers to win this game. But what I can do is go for the totally chaotic outcome. I'm going to pick the Chargers to tie this game with the Vikings. I think that the only way this game can end is with neither team going 0-3.
Yes!
Both teams coming back to make the playoffs. And this game ending in a
2-1, baby.
34-34 tie. 34-34 tie. That's what I'm going with this game. It's the
tie. Yeah.
It's the only thing that makes sense to me.
And definitely 2 field goals in overtime.
Oh, yes. Oh, 100%. No, it's each team getting a field goal in overtime. Mark it, and then the Chargers still come up short on their last possession in overtime when they haven't been able to go win a game.
So there's a stat that broke my brain, and that is that 8 different franchises have kicked their franchise-long field goal against the Vikings. 8 of a quarter of the league has kicked their franchise. It's amazing how good kickers are against the Vikings.
That's a wild number.
It's insane. And if you look at like field goal percentage against, which like defenses, don't have a lot of control over this, right?
Sure.
But field goal percentage against is marginally higher for the Vikings, like by a good chunk higher for the Vikings than anybody else in the league. And it doesn't matter how long you extend. It goes back decades. It's insane how good kickers are against the Vikings. You just do not miss against the Vikings. So the Chargers will lose on a missed field goal against the Vikings. It has to be the chaotic thing that happens here. It's got to be, right? It's got to be a 2-point game, 39-yarder to win it, and finally someone misses against the Vikings. The Chargers have to, like, that has to be, we're in a very Chargersy game, right? 2-minute drill. Yeah. What are we going to do? But it also has to have that Vikingsiness of being something that is the last thing that you expect. That's the only way I can reconcile the 2 curses of these teams.
Yeah, I totally could see that happening, but like, just who knows? Like, that's the crazy thing about trying to predict a game like this, right? Like, all you can actually guarantee is that chaos will ensue.
Any serious prediction is a waste of your time. Absolutely.
Totally.
Just sit down, strap yourself into your armchair,
to your straight jacket.
Restraints. Yeah, exactly. Tighten those restraints. Take a couple of smelling salts and enjoy yourself.
Take your TV remote and put it in a safe place.
Move it away. Tell the family to go somewhere else.
All fragile items. No, dude. Yeah. I mean, don't let anyone watch you watch this game. I think that's another big thing. Like, do not let anyone see what this game is going to do to you, because like it's going to tear us in so many different directions. And like, you're going to freak out about something in the second quarter, and it's just like, you're going to be like, hey, chill out, bro. We still have the fourth quarter where like even more weird stuff's gonna happen. Like I can't wait, and I like also can't wait for it to be over already because I just know it's going to be terrible and weird and awesome and chaotic, and I don't even know what to expect from this game, man.
Sit back and enjoy, everybody. Thank you so much for hanging out for Crossover Thursday. Go check out Locked On Chargers for more research. If you're Vikings fans, go check out Locked On Chargers. Always go check it out and do a little oppo scouting, and Chargers fans come and suffer a different way for a change, I guess, with me. For Daniel Wade, I'm Luke Braun. Thank y'all so much for listening to Crossover Thursday on the Locked On Podcast Network.